Hey, everybody, we're just getting some things organized here. The beauty of working on a screen of a computer, I have to wait until I see the YouTube so I can make sure, yeah, we're good to go. We're good to go. Today is a very special day for me. First of all, it's very significant in the greater world because it's May 5th and there's an eclipse going on at this time that is about restoring the return of human beings in their power and in their free will. So being able to introduce Sabina today is really important to me because I am someone that started when I was 19 years old, professionally 22. I'm 77, 55 years ago. I talked about now, and everything I did and everything I promoted was all about having enough human beings to be able to populate this moment of now where new consciousness is rising. When I met her, kind of sporadically in the beginning, she got my attention because I could tell she was a visionary, first of all. And it's not like she would necessarily identify herself this way. This is my perception. And that she was really working on what I call a new matrix, a matrix of how to provide something and to structure it in a certain manner that was part of what I would call new consciousness rising. And we're not going to go into that unless we do today, but I want to give you the baseline. Everything, our money, our education, even our spirituality is based on having to survive. It's based on recovering from trauma, from coping with trauma, from being able to understand why things are happening to us that are traumatic. It's hard to believe in the midst of that, there is another kind of reality. Another kind of reality that doesn't operate in a trauma matrix, that isn't always harming people through structures that are not their own self-expression, that are not their own direct relationship with creation. And now those structures are failing. They're not only failing in the world, they're failing inside of our own psyche and inside of our own mind, how our mental mind works, how our emotional mind works, how our sentience works, even how our physical body works. So today, I really had a whole bunch of things come together in the last 24 hours, which I also want to bring up today, because there are people, for me, when I invite them to be with me on CreateAWorld, they're part of what I would call larger patterns, in a simple way to say it. In a mystical way of saying it, they persistently move with creation. They don't know how not to. And they sometimes, as in all visionary structures, it can be a tough grind. But today is a confluence of several things that have been going on in the more quantum nature of things. So it seemed completely perfect today that I had you on this call. Now, I'm going to actually start this call and turn it over to her. Try to use my participles, right? Turn it over to her to just share herself and whatever there's for her to say, and we'll move into it. But there's a particular poem, some of you remember, I had Mary Pat Mengato on, and she read a half-an-hour poetry to us. And there was a poem that particularly resonated for me with Sabina. And I really, really wanted to start it with it. Interestingly enough, what had Mary Pat write her poetry book, she sat under a tree. But if you can listen in a more creative way, in a more, expressive way, what Sabina's doing is like creating a tree of life, as a matter of fact. So I wanted to read this in honor of you, and also to really set the field today, the conversation, as part of a movement of creation that is bringing things into form at this time. So here we go. Fabric of life. Invisible threads crossing space. The lines connecting branch to branch. Carve the air. Carve the tree. Ground beneath. Is close, runs deep, deep to the mountain that holds this field. This tree holds me. Limb to limb, umbrella seat, I watch the wind in weightless state, a balance that is free, free to the air, spinning the leaves, merry circles, dancing the tree, defining orbits, self-contained within the limitless universe. A crossing over seems unlikely. I'm happy to stay here. Pushing will not move the river, simply open to its flow. A full embrace. The sphere encircles, connects above, connects below. Hidden spider knows the weave and follows all the lines, directions, maps of music, seen, not heard, vibration, shaping whirls in motion. Forms align. Wise woman sits. In the presence, life suspending, time is shifted to eternal. Every move, every moment threads the needle. I am moving in the eye. Over to you.
That's beautiful. As you were said, Tantra, thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. I did not expect this at all. I am honored to be in your presence and in the presence of everybody here. Thank you so much for being here today. As you were reading your poem, I recognized certain markers in it. One was the web, the threads connecting. The other was the spider. The third was wise woman. But I don't know if I'm the wise woman yet. It takes time and practice and a lot of trial and error. So the first thing I want to share with you is this vibration of paradise that I saw many years ago. I had a dream when I was a Muslim. I converted to Islam when I was 18 years old because it was a step closer to God than the Christian religion my parents practiced allowed. So there were no intermediaries, and I wanted to be very, very close. So my character is such that I'm all in. I tend to go all the way into a belief system, and then it crashes. Then I have to readjust, so on and so forth. This brings me to the point of I had a lot of purity in my life when I was a Muslim. I lived in an all-girls college. I fasted, so I practiced the religion of purity, of purifying yourself. And one day I had a dream of a choice. I was standing at the gate of heaven, what was paradise. And the message was, you have to open it yourself. Because I expected like, oh, the heavens open and you just are welcome. But no, the message is, you have to open it yourself. And then I turned around to see, because I didn't know what was in paradise. I knew it was paradise, but behind me was everything I knew. So I did not step into paradise. I turned around and there was a huge tsunami wave just came over and overtook everything. And I discovered I could breathe underwater. And then I woke up. So recently over Christmas, and this theme of paradise always, even as a child, I wanted to know. I read the children's Bible when I was 8 or 10 or 12. In an old Russian script, it was addressed specifically to children, like dear children. It was so fraternal and loving. And I read everything I could. And I knew, as children do, and I have a poem too as well. When I was just a girl, I read the children's Bible, and in it, an old Russian script, it was written what heaven was like. I knew, as children do, that heaven is a place on earth. I searched, as children do, for where it was, so I could go there for a visit. Tigris and Euphrates stretched like snakes undulating on both sides of heaven. My country was framed by rivers too, and called the mouth of heaven. Then the poem continues in verses I don't remember, but the point is something about playing under and into and over the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And once you're done, you return home. So I was done playing or exploring the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I'm done, I'm home, and I never left. That was the message. I'm home, I never left. The reality, however, that I was living disagreed. So trauma played a big part in it. And in preparation for our conversation today, I listened to your activation again, the one you did last month in April, the series of 3. I did that again because something in me was rising, and you're absolutely right. The part of us the consciousness of who we are, was not able to embody here at all. And that's the role of trauma too, because it just, I saw it as a little, no way to win. There was no way, no room for it. It was just shut down. There's nothing I could do. So recovering from trauma for sure is great. But even in the art of peace, I practice. I was in the 7 layers of peace, the structure of it. Even when I look at it, when I listen, tune into it, it's not the opposite of war. My mental mind, my trauma-based mind is thinking along those lines, but peace isn't the opposite of war. Peace is just a framework where war doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. It's like pink sheep don't exist, right? Because it just don't. So my point here, I think, is if we do want to install paradise and the structures of it, it's not, as you say, it's not trauma-based. It's a world where trauma did not exist at all. It's inconceivable, unthinkable, and how to get there is what I'm dealing with at the moment. Thank you for saying that you can't force your will on the river. The river just flows. Because I kind of have been trying to, come on, force it a little bit.
I did that too, and I finally realized I just figured out how to get God's attention. That I thought I was trying to force something, but the truth was I was just jumping up and down on the side of the stream, screaming like a banshee, over here, over here, over here. I need to talk to you, whatever God may be for people. It's so beautiful to hear the beginning of what you said. I had the opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia for 3 years with one of my husbands. And I spent all my time with Osman. He was from Baluchistan, and he read me the Quran, and he would read it first in Arabic, and then he would translate it to me in English. And I'd meet him down in the souk about every day, and so this would be about 2 hours a day. And then I'd go home just weeping, and just weeping. What a beautiful. There's no baguettes in there. What a beautiful poetic living word. It hasn't been messed with like the Christian Bible has. And I remember visiting Turkey, and every time and also in Saudi Arabia, every time the prayers would start and everybody would go to the ground, I did too, because there's something so fundamentally missing in our world to taking time for what created us in whatever way we understand it, in whatever way we can find it to be real. And the only thing I knew as a child was that my God was a benevolent God. And I did have God like a guy out there. I did have that. But as time's gone on, I know it's a matrix. I know it's a design. I know it's a generating, organizing design of creation in multiple expressions. But none of them are about harm. And none of them are about killing ourselves, killing each other, killing life. And I really, really, with all my heart, I feel today is epic for you and I to be on this call. And because technically you're the younger generation, and technically I'm the older generation. And the other thing I want to say to people, I want to say about you to people, is without you knowing it, you are in a kind of a tradition that is very much the way communities worked. And that was that the young sat with the elders. They gathered all the information so the information would not be lost. And then they carried on. And you do that. You do that by the nature of your being, not like a program or not like trying to make it happen. But in my relationship with you and your relationship with me, I feel the ancientness of it. I feel the worlds that those relationships once existed in. And so just by your being, just by the nature of your being and your presence, where I am, it is the ultimate of any spirituality. I am that, and where I am, that is. And you have that. Where you are, that possibility is. And like you said about the trauma, it's a problem because the world has become so separate from itself, so separate from humans from each other, and so separate from their own being, like you said, that if someone's interested in that, there's like this reaction. There's a song by I can't remember her name, but the words go, "Don't wake me unless you love me. It hurts too bad to go back to sleep. Don't wake me unless you're a friend of mine. I'd rather stay in my dreams." And I think that's the world right now. We started CreateAWorld. This is for you and everyone on behalf of visionaries, which may not look like it because we hold visionaries to be people that are lofty but no. I had a client the other day, and she's working with me because 8 years ago, her boy, no one knew, suddenly killed himself. And she has a vision for her family she's struggling to get back to. That's a visionary. We have a guy and someone I'm going to have on in another time who has the baseball field for Field of Dreams in Iowa and is carrying on that tradition. Carrying on the tradition of, I hate it when they do it like that. When they send me information, I don't know how to process. So we're in a visionary time, whether it's a mother or whether it's a dream or whether it's someone that's tending to life the way you are. And it's just deeply appreciated. And given I move like greased lightning and I'm always in a million things at once, I was going to take advantage of our secured time together to let you know that. just over to you. Any thoughts or comments?
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. I do have some comments about the Islamic religion. I want to say there's a fail-safe of why the words weren't changed. It's because it was forbidden in the tradition. So as religions evolve, you cannot change the words of the Quran, and the language in the Quran is ancient Arabic from that time. So even Arab people who speak vernacular, modern Arabic, they will have to switch slightly to the old Arabic. So there's a fail-safe there to changing that. What else did I want to weave? That would be paradise. I don't know, nothing occurs to me at the moment.
Well, talk a little bit about what you're up to and what your present moment of creation.
Okay. So the story is, when I was 16 years old, I realized I needed to make money. So I remember having a walk in my city and looking around at the people and the I thought I was thinking, how do I make them give me money? So I studied business and marketing, and I started several businesses in Spain. I studied English as an English as a second language school with Academy for Teachers online. And then I tried my hand on a fair with the Lemurians. I said, I'm going to collaborate now on a sustainable fashion brand, because my ambition in college at my end of all my years of study essay was to make a fashion brand to compete with Zara. So I have ambition for sure. Right. So that ended. That gave me the opportunity. The structures of the business I set up were a very similar, but not the same to what we're doing now. So the way English as second language works is, for you as an English learner, you need to trust the school that you go to give you good teachers and have good outcomes. So as I taught English as a second language for 4 years, I knew what a good teacher was. I knew how to distinguish them. I developed an instinct for them. So my role there was to connect good teachers, the instinct-based good teachers. So I know this person will do a good job, to my clients. And it worked really well, but it wasn't sustainable long-term because I stumbled into the taxation, the tax system. I didn't know how to deal. I was just like, oh my God, the trauma in me, like, oh, I'm trying to do something, don't hit me. And the taxman is like, pay. So it was really difficult to sustain it long-term. Thankfully, my ex-husband and I supported me. So I had my basic needs met. I didn't have to pay the bills with the system. And the way I dissolved it, it's also business structure. I dissolved it by giving the teachers, so the employees, so to speak, shares in the company, which means the clients I had with them. So my leaving did not interrupt the service. And the teachers made more money. So when I moved to London, I took myself out of it and the system could continue. So if you study the business people of today, they say, all the CEOs, they say you need to build a structure where you can take yourself out of it and it still continues. So if we're building legacies that last, legacies of paradise that last, or the seeds of paradise that last, a human lifetime is a short span of time. So whoever builds something needs to build it in a way that they can take themselves out of it, and the structure will continue to be improved on by the next generation. The fair trade fashion silk scarf business failed in the sense that I didn't sell, like my expectations weren't what actually happened. it was always hitting against reality, right? So I'm just like, oh, I have this vision, and the reality is like, no, well, here's what's happening. So I went to India to find fair trade silk suppliers, because it was logical to me that if I build a fair trade fashion business, I need to make sure that they are, because my instincts from teachers, selecting teachers, were adapted to this business. So I needed to make sure the suppliers were right, the right suppliers. They did as they said they would, not a marketing or greenwashing thing. So I went to India over the course of a week, and it was insane and intense and full of possibilities and options. And I realized several things. I stumbled upon a silk company that did even more than I imagined were possible. So first, they used vegan silk, which means the moths fly out, leave the cocoons, and therefore we are recycling what the moths leave without harming animals. I don't know if you know, actual silk, mulberry silk, the worms are boiled alive. So there's an element of cruelty in that. The other silk company found the moths left the cocoons, they used the leftovers to make garments. The people they hired and taught were human trafficking victims. So the women that this organization rescued from human trafficking were retrained to make scarves. So that's what I found. And it was in a remote village full of fireflies. So I took a walk among the fireflies at night. It was amazing, astounding. And India is a hot country. There are a lot of people, but they're full of heart. The waiter sang a song to me when he brought me his dinner because he liked singing. He just sang his heart out in whatever language he was singing. I'm sorry, I have no idea, but he just sang his heart out to me. He recommended yoga in the morning. It was just so warm as a structure. So obviously I moved to London because this is where the business world moves. New Yorkers may disagree, but I think the ancient Roman Empire ended up in London. So they knew that they conquered Britannia. They were building for the future, and this is now the hub. We know this by the ley lines that are here. The zero meridian runs through here, the Greenwich meridian. The way we measure time in the world runs through London. So it's like a pulsating beat and heart of the world. When you feel the energy of London, it's very overwhelming. So I'm learning, training myself to not be so overwhelmed, because there have been days, especially when they were planning the World War, and I saw it. I saw it, and yeah, there were days when I couldn't get out of bed. It was just like, oh my God, pummel. But I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm not the only one who follows the traditions. I'm not the only one who is sensitive to these things. So you have had your recommendations, the activations that I do, you really help establish and put me on the ground. Nelia Benz also mentioned the same process, that she just couldn't get out of bed, so she needed a system to get herself working. So Illumination Dancing, which is, I found the inspiration for it when I was crossing the River Thames, and the water was dancing in waves, and I thought, it'd be nice to sort of give a different points of view to people of different traditions and different aspects of consciousness that come in here and teach us how to handle what's coming or what is here already. So that's the project I'm in now, where I'm gathering all of these traditions and ways to exist and thrive under one roof, because thriving is the name of the game. And I'm conscious that my gut system. So what I learned in college at university about business, when you speak to marketing experts, all those teachings, I need to throw them out the window because they're just not helping at all. They're all based on the old paradigm of power over others, as they say, with one person on top and everybody else downstairs. So yeah, there's a lot. But Illumination Dancing clarifies. So it's a place for when you're like, okay, I'm ready to step into paradise. And it is a choice on a soul level. Because you can still, you can play forever. Time is on our side. You can play and play and play the good and evil game and the consequences thereof for as long as you want, as many incarnations as you wish. But I am personally done. I think many people are done too. And so we're just giving ourselves the opportunity to evolve away from this. For those of us who are done, we're like, okay, well, now we want to play a different game.
And the beauty is we can play it at every level. We can play it where we're standing. And I was raised in a system to listen to authorities, that we didn't know the answer to things, and that the authorities did know the answer to things. I got kicked out of Sunday school 3 times. Finally, I got taken out of Sunday school because I kept saying, when the whole conversation of being punished because I sinned, I just kept saying, I don't think so. That I don't think you know God. And of course, as a mystic at 3 and 4 and 5 years old, I was really sure I did, So finally, my mother took me out of church, really embarrassed, because they were high end, they were aristocracy in the Southern tradition in Tennessee. And so I'm sitting in my crinoline dress, which I hated, sitting on the front pew with my mother. We had a new minister. The minister before him was a fire and brimstone minister, suffer, suffer, suffer. You've earned your pain, and that kind of thing. And Papa Kit came out, because I have to, the English church, it was, high English, where the priest goes up to the top and looks down on you to deliver the sermon, like about half a story up. And Papa Kit, I saw him look at it, and then look at us, and then came down and sat on the stairs in front of everybody, and everybody went, oh. This is quite elite church. And he starts to do a sermon. He looks at me and he says, he closes his Bible and he says, I think I'm going to talk about unicorns today. And the church goes, again, totally going outside the tradition. And he looks at me through the whole thing and talks about the last unicorn, how the last unicorn was so important for the other unicorns to have a way to find their way here. And that set me in play. That thing at 5 years old, that set me in play, because I knew I was going to find all the unicorns, all the ones, or whatever it was, a dragon, an empath, it didn't matter the title, but the ones that had survived the Holocaust of the traumatic events that have happened here for probably about 12,000 years. And so today, again, going back to the beginning, I feel like today that somehow today is the day to say that. It's like not just information. It feels like those gateways are starting to open. Those gateways that and many people now, like what you're doing with movement, many people are having a real schizophrenic time right now, because our systems know when we're safe. Our psychology doesn't know when we're safe, but our systems know when we're safe. And I can't tell you how many people are having these moments of complete bliss, and then like you said, the water, and the next minute it's the choppy water of terror and fear of survival. But the system is definitely starting to pick up on new threads, and new threads that are paradise. I also want to define paradise according to my terminology. And but you basically said it. And that is that it's not that we don't get harmed, but we have a system that's built to recover from it. But we're not a system built to recover from continual harm. We're not supposed to swim in always trauma waters. We're meant to be happy, stub our toe, cry hard, fix it, and go back and climb the tree again. That's the way a human being is designed. And that's paradise. It's oops, ow, wee, basically. I have a feeling you're frozen. You are. Okay, hi everybody. We're not quite sure what's going to happen now. I mean, this may be the shortest one we've ever done. We'll see. There she went. He'll come back on. I'm going to reinforce while she's coming back on. I'm not sure if it threw us. Oh no, we're still on YouTube. Okay. I'm not sure. I want to reinstate what CreateAWorld is actually all about. It really is to present every walk of life that we stumble across, the 7 collaborators, and just to bring life back, just the fact that we are in a visionary time. And every one of you that watches these, comes on and watches or watches them later, it's not for you to learn. It's not even to make a point. It's to be part of a living reality that even though it looks like a tremendous amount of the news media is predicting demise, predicting all sorts of things, and all could be true, but it is amazing what else is happening. You know, the beauty of being a human being is we persist. We persist under amazing odds, shocking odds. We persist, and we are persisting. And so you could say that CreateAWorld is a place where we pick up on people who are persisting and weaving new threads, spiders weaving new threads, new weaves, not only for ourselves, but for those who come after us. I was in a conversation with my daughter yesterday, and my kids had it hard in a way. They weren't abused, but they were abandoned. I was in the male world. If I had gone off to war and fought for my country, that would have been socially acceptable. But I had a mission. And I talked to my kids about it when they were 3 years old. And I let them know that I was so grateful to have had them. They were both accidents. All my kids were accidents. But that I needed to do this mission that actually ended for me in 2020. So Liana and I were out talking about it, and she was telling me she used to run away when I was gone, hoping someone would come find her. It broke my heart, My kid went through that. By the way, my daughter is an amazing activist. She stands for the rights of highly traumatized people to be whole. She is an amazing human being, and she's at work in the area of personal relationship in an extraordinary way. And if she ever hears she was on CreateAWorld, I'll probably get shot. And not shot, but sorry, I shouldn't have used that term. I'll get yelled at for sure, though. But what I said to her was, I said, I'm so sorry. I wish I'd been there to come find you. And because I didn't go off and travel, and I didn't use up my life for 50 years because I wanted to have a good time. It's because I really had to make sure we were, those people whose lives I touched on 2023 would be able for this transfiguration, this movement of one type of reality collapsing and another type of reality rising. One that lives in harmony, grace, proportion. You know, it can be harmed, but you recover. It's just part of the day. It's not what you have to cope with every day of your life. And it feels like Pollyanna, but it isn't, because we have a lot of years, thousands of years, that a lot of us have been at work about this. And we are in a tipping point now. And the beauty of human beings is they're clear about that they want to survive. And even if they don't know how to, and a lot don't want to survive anymore. And that's really hard. Like, we're at the effect of what has happened the last 12,000 years, for sure. But we'll also find our way out. like I said to somebody the other day, we'll make it. The species will make it. It's just going to be a little hard. But I said that to my daughter, and my daughter said, Mom, I always knew that about you. And then I thought to myself, and now here we are, living together, or living in the same town. And in the same town, I now get to go find her when she gets lost and needs me as a mother. And on that note, Sabina is back. I was doing an infomercial for the passage of time. And I was saying that my daughter and I had an incredible conversation yesterday, and because I traveled most of my children's lives, they didn't really have a mother, but they were raised in community, and but it wasn't enough, and I didn't know that. I thought it would be enough, and it wasn't. And my daughter and I were talking about it, and one of the things was that she said when I was not there, she'd run away and hope that somebody would come find her, and nobody did. She was very like me, very strong, very independent. You know, everybody just thought she was having her day, probably. And I said to her, you know, I never wanted to leave you kids. I just had a mission, and I had to do it. It was mandatory for me. And I said, but now here we live in the same town. And in my heart and in my head, I went, and now when you need me, I can find you. And that's kind of the point, I think, right now. If human beings can, there's so much evidence, and it's not this call today, but that the past is coming forward to complete itself in so many people's lives, and not in a lot. People are caught in the past and repeating it ad nauseum, you know. But there is a crack. There is a crack, and in that crack, things are resolving and coming up to date and current. So after my infomercial, I'm now turning it back over to you.
That's beautiful. The story of getting lost and getting found again. The return. Are we leaving the return to paradise? That's in all of our mythology.
Yeah, I see no other way to live. I think you and I are very on the same page with that, because it's very hard. The crises of not that really get to us. They really get in hard. There's a lot of crying and weeping and a lot of feeling like something's not working. And it isn't, because we have to do a lot of not workings right now to get to what is meant to work. Because the interesting thing about the planet and the cosmos is an intelligence, is it does reach a crisis point, and it does say no more. It's not a judgment God. It's just knowing that everything will go out of existence unless systems are shifted and brought into a new order. So it's both and.
Yeah, I wanted to add to the point of what you said in your activations, actually, and how you suggest when you activate what we came here to be, you suggest taking care of yourself and letting the system work the trauma out. And you mentioned also the mind's fixation with trauma. Because my mind works as a solution, problem solution. I need a solution, I need a solution, I need a solution. This is why, and there is no solution. So this, because this trauma isn't mind-based. It's not, you can't think your way out of trauma. So yesterday I practiced being present with the stone. So there was a lot going on in my system, in my belly, traumatic events, memories from past, memories, and trauma feels like you're there, right? You're there. So I started focusing on what's happening here, and nothing was happening. And then a suggestion came through from the goddess to just look at the stone. Just focus your attention on the stone. And that helped the mind away from what was working itself through, because the mind, doesn't have any, there's not much it can do. It's a whole thing that's taking care of us. It's working this through, right? It's not our mind. So I kept focusing on the stone. It really helped. And I realized I had a lot of thoughts about the stone. You can have many, many thoughts about this stone, where it came from, the story, how much I love it, how beautiful it is, the shape, the structure. That doesn't really help you commune or commute with the stone. So only in the presence of absolute silent attention can you actually see the stone. Otherwise, you're just thinking about it. You're not really seeing it. So I think when we say paradise, there are a lot of misconstrued thoughts about what it is. And it's not, maybe something completely different. It's not what we think about it. It's what it is. So I think silence and presence is a good step towards allowing its transmission to transform. Because we can't force a river. Just focus on the stone.
However, we are in the river, which is pretty cool.
Thank God.
Yeah, it's a long time coming.
One of my greatest reliefs was actually when I was thinking, I thought, I'm going to build a corporation that exists to support life, just like, ooh la la. So in my beautiful ambition trend. And one of the relief is that the technology to do that already existed. And I was so relieved to say, well, I don't have to invent everything. It's great. I don't have to be, in charge of it, all of this thing. And then also, of course, I realized that taking care to support life is erroneous, because life supports, not the other way around. So we're not the ones who are like, oh, I'm going to support life. And life is like, ha ha, you're funny. It's like a cell in your body saying, I'm going to just support the whole system. Great. Go ahead.
I love you said that. I have to, it's just so funny, the way we think. There's a lot of ways we crash into each other in a beautiful manner, fluffily. But it's why I incorporated. I incorporated because it meant to embody. And I knew that there was oh my goodness, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, there's actually a legal way to bring into the secular world embodiment. So it's Tantra Maat Inc. I mean, how much better is that? And I knew it. I knew it from the get-go. We also had MetaPoints Inc. We've done a few corporations, but it was literally to bring that etheric territory into a secular world. Like give it a place in the secular world. That was really, really real for me. And it's so interesting. And because what happens, I love what you said about don't try to define paradise. I always think of pair of dice, and that gets me out of my mental fixation. Because it's but the interesting thing is, for instance, I have a corporation. And I have a bookkeeper who takes care of the financial part of my work. The interesting thing about my bookkeeper, who takes care of the embodiment of my work, is she's also my homeopath. What are the odds?
Beautiful.
And it's those kind of, when I think about what the feel of it all is, and you also said something else about the stone, is that I literally have been getting us to 2023 for over a half century. That's huge. As a psychic, that's what I've been doing.
Thank you.
But I had no idea how to stop and be where I was getting us going. And that's what's so interesting to me right now, because in the last three prophetics, one of the channeled messages to so many people was just do what calls you. Be self-expressed. Stop trying to get anywhere. Enjoy your expression of your own creative talent, your own nature of being. And it's a little bit like our feet are in the sand, our heels are in the sand, but we haven't stopped yet to even realize there's no place to go. We're in the forming. And that's what I really love tracking you and watching how you've been paying attention to what you've been moving with, because you you have an uncanny way to move with a logic, and I don't mean a rationale, that's different, with a logic that is directly connected to what grants life and has life exist as whole. And, just talking about India and finding that place where the silkworms get to be silkworms and people recovering from slave trafficking have a place to be creative. It's really remarkable. Now, my caveat is, which is what you were just talking about, what you were just expressing, is that we have this whole identity, all of us, nobody's out of this one. We have this whole identity that's a facade, an interface between the world and ourselves. And to some extent, you don't have that. I mean, you're self-expressed. You're truly one of the few people I've ever met that simply is self-expressed. But in our world, we don't have a logic for that. We have to be useful. We have to tell people what we're doing. We have to tell people what's important about what we do. And we're so sort of messed up. I started to use another word, but then YouTube would cut me off. We're so messed up about being a beautiful expression of self. We have to be useful or talk about what we do, not who we are. And I just think who you are really glows through it. I think this sort of people used to not like to be around me because they thought I read their soul. I mean, why would I? When I'm out shopping, for instance, it's not on my agenda. But a lot of people didn't want to be around me. But I used to say, people without realizing it, they kind of have to grow up around. I don't mean grow up psychologically. They have to sort of claim themselves to be around me, because I've been busy paying attention to claiming myself, not like as a teaching, but as a real interest on my part, real interest. Who is this thing? What is this thing I got born into? Do you know? And how does she express herself? And what is her paradise? So it's very paradise. Like, I think that religions made paradise something outside of us, but we're our paradise. We are. And we're a paradise where we're standing. And how we know that is we build a life that for us is paradise. And to the best of our ability under the present conditions, which are clearly not paradise oriented at the moment. Anyway, over to you about that. You really bring me out. I become quite chatty around you.
It's beautiful, as you say, but I also want to say because you have such a great field, there's room for me to be all aspects of who I am. That rarely happens. So most of the time I'm the one that's quiet and shy. So being this, what you see right now is because there's a field, there's an allowance of expression, and I can talk about the subjects of, past lives and reincarnation, paradise, the choices we make, etc. So I've been trying this in the business world. It's just it doesn't work. So the personality needs convincing that letting go of trauma and the pain is safer than staying in it.
Beautiful.
Because I realized from my conversations with this grippy part is this is the only thing I've known to stay safe. This is the only way I've known. When you're trying to make me let you go, and then what will happen? You'll die. It's gripping to take such good care of you, just like to protect you and stay safe. So you really need to let it know and reassure it it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's okay, you're safe, it's safe, you're safe, you're safe. And do less than you're used to.
Yes.
So I'm on vacation right now. I think it's what you said. It's time to stop. And I had a similar thing of tolerating as much as I can, tolerating my presence in environments that are really difficult and harsh and all those places as much as I can for as long as I can, to have the bridge open for people to access whatever my consciousness, it doesn't matter how I presented as a personality, the consciousness of who I am was there, so they could access it, right? So because it was this way, so, you know, I received a lot of hits, a lot of like, because there's space for it, right? But now it's like, it's done. I think that part of my journey is over. Just time to relax and enjoy my vacation. I don't know how to relax and enjoy my vacation. I have no idea.
Oh my goodness. So God, I don't think I can do it. I think I can language it. It's just so exciting. When way back when I started, people would ask me what I did for a living. And I said, I give you what you don't know you need. And there are a lot of us providing a way of being, letting ourselves move into some kind of intelligence in ourselves that's part of a larger intelligence that is literally giving life, our human thing called human life, what it doesn't know it needs. And you just said it. It's me too. I mean, I was supposed to be on a Facebook Live. I think this was one of those things, on Monday. I got stopped in my tracks. I mean, I couldn't have gotten on there I swear my computer would have burned up if I tried to get on there. And I just stood there that whole day. And then 2 other people are going to be on with me. They had things happen that they couldn't show. And I'm standing there going, I think I just got stopped in a kind way. And I'd actually had somebody rear end me Thursday, which it turned out to be kind too, this precious young man who'd never had anything bad, done anything like that before. But then I just took 3 days off. I said, okay, something's shifting. And these 3 activations I did, I don't do activations at strange times. I do them the last Wednesday of every month. But I could feel the universe trying to blend back into us. The cosmology and the planetary, we're being recognized by creation again. Now we're literally being recognized, remembered by creation. And I mean, for me, that's just the cat's meow, but it's creating this schizophrenic phenomenon where our body is really in charge. Our body is saying, the system, our physical system, I won't even say our body, our physical system is starting to reset with the physical world that is rising. And it's not work till you drop. And it's not give your life to others. It's give your life to yourself. And then see where others want to play with us. See if others want to play. Like we didn't do CreateAWorld to promote ourselves. We did CreateAWorld because we could see something rising and wanted to give it a place. And honest to goodness, the 7 collaborators might have truly gotten more out of it than any of the people that we're interviewing, because we're giving this, let's just hang out together. Let's just be, and what we're present to together, it's giving it a place. You
That's
and I today are
giving
something a place. We just are. Yeah, it's
trauma free. Let's
trauma
be trauma
free.
free.
No
Oh
expectations, no plot, no plot, no plot at all. And that, I would want to go back to the prophetics though. I want to anchor, you said markers. I knew this conversation would be a conversation of, we would find markers. And one of the markers that I keep going back to the last 3 years of prophetics is this phenomenon of, especially this one audible message, like audient message, thank humanity for their service. We'll take it from here. And I swear, I think that's what I'm experiencing. Because very much like you and I are very alike. We're very system oriented. How to do it, how to bring it into place, how to create it, how to have it happen. I'm very super mental. And I have been so relaxed working in my garden, trimming my greatest feat is the fact that I have grapes starting to grow on my incredibly unruly grapevine. That is like, I am in paradise. That's what I mean. I am in paradise. And I'm so hyper alert and so hyper attentive that I wouldn't take time out from paying attention to our global community if things weren't fine. They're just hard.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
So right now I'm focusing on the story of how I get a job that feels like a vacation, pays me a lot of money, and that I enjoy doing. Yeah. That's what I want.
I think
Yeah, it
that's
feels like a
great.
vacation. That's what yeah, that's the point. I'm tracking this. Feels like a vacation. What feels like a vacation? Because vacation isn't doing nothing.
Right.
It's an active, it's a
It's taking the pressure off so you can be. That is vacation. You're vacating trauma.
yeah.
Yeah, you're vacating trauma. We're at the top of our hour, but I want to say something about what you said. And I'm on vacation too. And I also am seeing how money will come. And I'm literally in 5 or 6 conversations about how do we know what to do and how to be when everything our society has taught us is survive, 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 survive. But you know what? It's the right problem.
For sure.
We're in the right problem. I adore you.
Sure.
We'll do this again.
Thank you so much for having me.